Have you ever had a game completely consume you, where the story, characters, and world are so immersive you lose track of time? Whether you're a casual gamer or a hardcore fan, we all crave those unforgettable gaming experiences that stay with us long after we've put down the controller. In this video, we're diving into 15 incredible story-rich games you must experience at least once. So, without further ado, let's get started. Kicking off our list, we have Mass Effect Legendary Edition. This game is a galactic triumph that redefines what it means to craft a narrative in gaming. Mass Effect Legendary Edition is more than just a remaster. It's a return to one of the most beloved sci-fi epics ever told. As Commander Shepard, your journey through the stars isn't just about saving the galaxy, it's about forging relationships, making tough choices, and living with the consequences. The story is phenomenal, with each decision you make feeling weighty and impactful, rippling through the narrative in ways that make every playthrough unique. Visually, the game is stunning. The remaster breathes new life into its worlds, making the galaxy more immersive and beautiful than ever. You can spend hours just exploring the intricate environments, from bustling space stations to eerie, desolate planets. And let's talk about the combat, because it's every bit as thrilling as you remember. The mix of biotic powers, gunplay, and squad-based tactics keeps every encounter fresh and challenging, making each battle a test of both strategy and skill. But it's not just the action that makes Mass Effect special, it's the characters. Every member of your crew is memorable, each with their own story, and by the end of the game, they'll feel like family. If you've never experienced Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition is the perfect way to dive into this incredible series. And if you have, well, there's no better time to return to the Normandy and take the helm once more. Next is Life is Strange Remastered. I couldn't leave Life is Strange Remastered off this list. It's one of those games that stays with you long after the credits roll. This game is a perfect blend of narrative depth and emotional impact, wrapping you up in a story that feels personal and profound. The remastered version takes everything that made the original so special and polishes it to a shine, enhancing the visuals while keeping the core experience intact. At its heart, Life is Strange is about choices and consequences, and it handles this in a way few other games manage. You play as Max, a high school student with the ability to rewind time, and this power lets you explore the impact of your decisions in a way that's both fascinating and terrifying. The story is filled with moments that will tug at your heartstrings, and the characters feel real, like people you might actually know. It's a game that makes you care deeply about the outcome of each decision, no matter how small. The world of Life is Strange is also a major highlight. Arcadia Bay is a place that feels lived in, with every corner of the town packed with detail and atmosphere. The remastered version enhances these environments, making them even more immersive and emotionally resonant. And let's not forget the soundtrack. It's the kind of music that sticks with you, perfectly complementing the game's tone and story. Ghost of Tsushima is one of those games that pulls you in right from the start and never lets go. Set on the stunningly beautiful island of Tsushima during the Mongol invasion, this game is a visual and emotional feast. The world is incredibly detailed, with rolling fields, dense forest, and serene shrines that all look absolutely amazing. But what really sets this game apart is how alive it feels. The dynamic weather, changing seasons, and wildlife make every moment in the game world feel authentic and immersive. As Jin Sakai, you're faced with a choice. Follow the strict code of the samurai, or embrace the path of the ghost, using stealth and deception to protect your home. The combat is where this game truly shines. Whether you're facing enemies head-on in tense samurai duels or sneaking through enemy camps as a deadly assassin, every encounter feels satisfying and intense. The controls are smooth and responsive, making every fight feel like a true test of skill. What's more, Ghost of Tsushima offers a surprisingly deep and emotional story. Jin's journey is one of honor, sacrifice, and the struggle to reconcile his duty with his desire to protect the people he loves. The game doesn't just give you an epic adventure, it makes you think about the choices you make and the person you want Jin to become. If you haven't played The Last of Us Part 1 yet, you're missing out on one of the most gripping and emotional gaming experiences ever created. Originally released in 2013 and later remade, this game redefined what it means to tell a story in the medium of video games. Set in a post-apocalyptic world ravaged by a deadly fungal infection, you step into the shoes of Joel, a hardened survivor, tasked with escorting a young girl named Ellie across the country. But this isn't just a journey for survival, it's a journey that explores the depths of human emotion, the bonds we form, and the lengths we'll go to protect those we care about. The Last of Us Part 1 excels in every aspect of game design. The narrative is one of the best you'll ever experience, filled with tension, heartbreak, and moments that will leave you questioning your own morality. The world is bleak and unforgiving, with every corner you turn revealing another layer of the story's depth. Visually, the remake is stunning, with meticulously crafted environments that pull you even deeper into its world. The characters are brought to life with incredible performances and some of the best animation ever seen in a game, making every interaction feel real and impactful. For less than the price of a night out, you can pick up The Last of Us Part 1, and believe me, it's worth every penny. Next up, we have Alan Wake 2. Now, if the name alone doesn't send a chill down your spine, just wait till you dive into the game. We're talking about a psychological horror that doesn't just play with your mind, it downright haunts it. Picture this: you're back in the shoes of Alan Wake, a writer whose own nightmares seem to be scribbling themselves into reality. The visuals is dark, moody, and dripping with atmosphere. Think mist-covered forests where the trees seem to whisper your name, and abandoned towns that feel like they're one wrong step away from swallowing you whole. It's got that kind of lighting that makes you squint into the shadows, half expecting something to leap out at you. But here's the thing, the gameplay isn't just about scaring you senseless, it's also about keeping you on your toes with some seriously tight action. You're armed with a flashlight and a gun, and trust me, you're gonna need both. Light is your best friend here, burning away the darkness that's literally out to get you. What really sets Alan Wake 2 apart, though, is how it blends cinematic storytelling with gameplay. It's like you're living through a psychological thriller where every decision matters and every moment is dripping with tension. And honestly, if you're into horror, this is one story-rich game you absolutely have to play at least once. So next is Nier Automata. This game, it's something else. It's not just an action RPG. It's this whole existential experience wrapped up in what's probably one of the most unique and thought-provoking narratives you'll ever play. And yeah, it's technically part of the Drakengard series, which is wild because that series is pretty niche. It's a sequel to the original Nier, which, let's be honest, was kind of a cult classic. But what Automata does is it takes that foundation and just runs with it, like in a totally different direction that really makes you think about life, consciousness, and the human condition. The gameplay is this beautiful blend of hack and slash with RPG elements, but then it'll switch things up on you with these crazy bullet hell segments. And it all flows so seamlessly. The story is layered, like super layered. You play through multiple perspectives, which is cool because you're getting different angles on the same events, but it also means the narrative really hits you in waves, with each playthrough adding new depth and meaning to everything that's come before. I think if you're someone who likes games that make you feel, like really feel and think, Nier Automata is, well, it's essential. For a lot of people, myself included, God of War from 2018 was a game changer, literally and figuratively. We're not just talking about the best game in the series, though it arguably is, but a redefining moment for Kratos as a character. Gone are the days of the rage-fueled Spartan tearing through gods with sheer brute force. Here, we see a different side of him. A father, a mentor, and someone who's clearly carrying the weight of his past on his shoulders. The game takes a bold step away from its hack and slash roots and dives headfirst into a more narrative-driven, open-world experience. And honestly, it works. The relationship between Kratos and his son Atreus is the heart of the game, and it's probably one of the most compelling and well-written stories in recent years. You're not just swinging the Leviathan axe, which, by the way, feels incredibly satisfying to use. You're experiencing this rich, emotional journey through the Norse realms. Combat is a blast, blending the heavy-hitting action the series is known for with a more strategic approach, along with the boss fights that will surely satisfy you once you beat them. The game has received a sequel, and if you haven't played it yet, then I suggest that you grab it now. If you don't have a PlayStation, don't worry, because God of War is also now available on PC. One of the standout features of Cyberpunk 2077 is how you can shape the storyline through your choices. Right from the start, you're given a ton of freedom in how you approach missions, interact with NPCs, and ultimately decide the fate of Night City. I really appreciate the depth here. Like, do you side with the corrupt corpo, or do you stand with the street kids fighting for survival? The game gives you the reins, and it's fascinating to see how your decisions ripple through the narrative. Now, as much as the game shines with its narrative depth, there's no denying that it's had its share of ups and downs, especially at launch. The combat is varied, but it's not necessarily the game's strongest suit compared to, say, God of War. But I'd still recommend diving into it, especially now that many of the bugs have been patched. It's one of those games where the world building really pulls you in. Cyberpunk 2077 can get a bit overwhelming at times with all the side quests, gigs, and world events. But if you're looking for a game that offers something more than just straightforward action, this is it. There's a lot to uncover, a lot to experience, and if you've already played through the major AAA titles and are itching for something with a bit more grit and depth, Cyberpunk 2077 could be your next great adventure. Plus, with the recent updates and expansions, it's become a much smoother ride. When you get right to it, A Way Out was basically a game changer for co-op experiences. When Hazelight Studios set out to create a game that could only be played in split-screen co-op, it seemed like a pretty bold move. The game isn't the first to do split-screen co-op. Obviously, couch co-op has been around forever. But A Way Out integrated this mechanic into the storytelling in a really innovative way. You and your partner are playing two characters, Leo and Vincent, trying to break out of prison and navigate the dangers that follow. What's cool is how the game constantly shifts between split screen and full screen, depending on what's happening. And there are moments where one player might be in a cutscene while the other is still in control, which keeps things dynamic and engaging. The narrative is pretty solid too. There's plenty of drama, action, and those tense make or break moments where you and your co-op partner really need to work together. But what really stands out is how the game gives each player a distinct role and perspective. It's impressive how they pulled this off, because co-op games don't usually dive this deep into story and character development. And from what I've heard, most people who've played it talk about how it was an unforgettable experience with their friend or partner. It's one of those games that's really designed to be experienced together, and honestly, that's what makes it so special. Detroit Become Human is one of those games that doesn't just ask you to play, it asks you to think, to feel, to wrestle with your conscience as you guide three androids, Connor, Marcus, and Kara, through a world teetering on the brink of chaos. The game's set in a near-future Detroit where androids are everywhere, but instead of just being mindless machines, they're developing consciousness. And, of course, that's where things get really interesting. The choices you make in this game are not just superficial. Every decision you take alters the story in a significant way, and trust me, you'll feel the weight of every choice. Visually, it's absolutely stunning. The world of Detroit is meticulously detailed, with a moody, futuristic vibe that makes you feel like you've been dropped right into a sci-fi movie. The characters are rendered with such realism that you can't help but get emotionally invested in their fates. And speaking of emotions, this game doesn't pull its punches. Whether it's the quiet moments of introspection or the intense action sequences, every scene is packed with feeling, making it impossible not to get drawn into the narrative. Gameplay-wise, it's a blend of exploration, quick-time events, and dialogue choices that work together to keep you engaged from start to finish. If you're the kind of player who loves a good story, Detroit Become Human will hit you right in the feels. Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous might not have had everyone's attention when it was first announced, but wow, did it come through. this game takes everything Kingmaker did and cranks it up a notch. Now, I know some folks get overwhelmed by the sheer depth of these kinds of RPGs. There's a lot to manage, tons of characters, and let's be honest, the rules can feel like you're diving into a tabletop game head first. But here's the thing, if you're into that, if you love the nitty-gritty of character builds, complex narratives, and choices that genuinely matter, this game is a goldmine. First off, the game's mythic paths are a game changer. You're not just picking a class and calling it a day, you're shaping your character into something epic, something that can tilt the entire story in different directions. The story is massive. Demons invading, moral dilemmas everywhere, and a cast of characters that's so diverse, you'll probably find yourself replaying just to see how different choices play out. Combat is another big thing here. It's got that classic turn-based style, but it's tuned in such a way that even the smallest decisions can feel like they're swinging the battle. And if you're into party management, this game has you covered. There's a lot to tweak, from abilities to gear, and if you're the kind of player who likes to optimize, you're going to have a field day. It's not the most streamlined experience, sure, but that's not what Wrath of the Righteous is going for. It's dense, it's deep, and it's perfect for players who want to sink their teeth into something substantial. Next up, we have Deus Ex Human Revolution. Human Revolution is one of those games that hits you with a lot right from the start. It's got this cyberpunk dystopian vibe that's just dripping with atmosphere, and it throws you into a world where human augmentation is the norm. And, well, that brings up a lot of questions. Gameplay-wise, it's kind of a mix of action, RPG, and stealth. You've got a lot of freedom to approach situations how you want. You can go full-on action hero, sneaking around and taking out enemies quietly, or hack your way through security systems, whatever suits your style. The augmentations you pick up really change the way you play too. It's all about choice, and that's what makes the game so engaging. The world itself is packed with detail. The cities you explore feel alive, with tons of little side stories and details that make you want to just wander around and soak it all in. Now, the boss fights are a bit of a sore spot. They kind of force you into combat even if you've been playing all stealthy, which can be frustrating. But honestly, that's a small issue in the grand scheme of things. Yakuza 0 isn't strictly a beat-em-up, but it's one of those games where the combat shines, especially when you mix it with the wild, over-the-top world it throws you into. Set in the vibrant streets of 1980s Japan, you bounce between two protagonists, Kiryu and Majima, each with their own fighting styles and storylines. Kiryu's all about brawling with raw power, while Majima's got a flashier, more unpredictable style, which makes switching between them a blast. What makes Yakuza 0 stand out is how it blends intense action with a deep, character-driven narrative. The story dives into the underbelly of Japan's criminal underworld, and it's filled with drama, betrayal, and some genuinely emotional moments. But then, there's the other side of the game. The quirky, often downright bizarre, side quests and minigames that range from karaoke to managing a cabaret club. Now, it's not exactly a co-op game, but it's one of those experiences that's just as fun to play with someone watching. Maybe even taking turns on the controller. It's got a lot of heart, a lot of style, and yeah, a lot of punches. If you're into action games that also give you a great story and a ton of things to do, Yakuza 0 is absolutely worth your time. One of the most compelling aspects of Days Gone is how it immerses you in a world where every choice feels like it matters. You play as Deacon St. John, a drifter who's navigating a post-apocalyptic landscape filled with danger at every turn. The game really shines in the way it forces you to make decisions that can have far-reaching consequences. Whether it's choosing to help a stranger or focus on your own survival, these choices add a layer of depth that keeps you engaged. But what sets Days Gone apart isn't just the tense atmosphere or the relentless hordes of freakers, it's the way the game makes you feel the weight of your actions. Sure, the combat is solid, but it's not the star of the show. Instead, it's the story and the moral dilemmas that keep you hooked. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. Days Gone has its slow moments. There are times when the pacing drags and you might find yourself getting a little bored. But if you're the kind of player who enjoys digging into a story and uncovering secrets, this game has a lot to offer. It's one of those titles where the more you invest in the world and its characters, the more you'll get out of it. And for those who've already played the major blockbusters and are looking for something different, Days Gone might just be the fresh experience you've been craving. And finally, to complete our list, we have The Walking Dead, the Telltale Definitive Series. This might look like just another comic-style game, but it's far from your typical adventure. This series isn't about flashy combat or platforming. It's all about the choices you make and the story you weave as you navigate a world overrun by the undead. If you're expecting something along the lines of The Last of Us or Resident Evil, think again. This game is more about the emotional journey and the bonds you form with the characters rather than slicing through hordes of zombies. At its core, The Walking Dead is a narrative-driven experience where every decision feels like it could be your last. You step into the shoes of various characters, most notably Lee Everett and later Clementine, as they struggle to survive in a world where the living can be just as dangerous as the dead. What makes this game stand out is its ability to make you care deeply about the characters you meet along the way. The relationships you build and the choices you make will stay with you long after the credits roll. Now, don't expect intense, action-packed gameplay here. The Walking Dead is more about dialogue choices, quick-time events, and exploring your surroundings. But that doesn't mean it's any less engaging. The tension comes from the story itself. The difficult decisions, the moral dilemmas, and the constant threat of death lurking around every corner. It's the kind of game where you'll find yourself sitting on the edge of your seat, wondering if you made the right call. And there you have it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. What's your favorite story-driven game? Did we miss any that you think deserve a spot on this list? Drop a comment below and let us know.